Adulting Club is a private online community for women with ADHD. Our common thread is our diagnosis and the desire to get things done. For just $1.99 a month, join us for weekly, midweek, and end-of-week check-ins. It's simple enough to stick to, but effective as hell. I used this exact process to launch my side hustle and stick to daily health goals. It totally works. To subscribe, visit adultingwithadhd.com/club. Happy adulting. Hi, this is part 2 of my interview with Dzuira of Get Bullish. For the first part, back up to the previous episode and then hit this one when you're done. Until next time, happy adulting.
Anyway, so MVP. So this is a thing that I talk about a lot. And I don't think I even knew about the MVP methodology when I was starting my e-commerce business. But what kind of happened here was, I founded the Bullish conference. I was still working in test prep, still doing other things. Bullish was, a little bit of a labor of love at that point. At the second Bullish conference said, wouldn't it be cool if we launched a little store? And so at that conference, I announced hey, we have a store now. Everybody gets a discount code, here's a thing. And that store had 5 products in it. It was like, here's a t-shirt, here's a tote bag. It was cute.
Yeah.
But it was just, of all the things that I did, some conferences are very hard to run profitably. Even a conference that you went to, it looked great, you had a great time, you feel like you paid enough for a ticket, like this ought to work. The costs are huge and the time is huge. So it's not a good way to make money. But, selling products is a little bit of an easier way to make money, although it's probably a lot more infrastructure than a lot of listeners here are interested in. Right. But anyway, it's sort of something that suited my personality a lot. And so I just went with what worked. My business has enough aspects that, I'm doing digital products and intangibles, and I'm also doing physical products, and I'm doing events. I'm doing all of these things. And sometimes I give speeches, so there are these aspects of the business where whatever works, I can focus on it more, or just whatever I'm a little more interested in, I can focus on that more. So I never get bored. And I also just like e-commerce, the fact of having huge numbers of products, dealing with a lot of data instead of relationships. Yeah. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
So here I am today. I think that's my story. And yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. A lot of our listeners are going to appreciate a lot of facets of that. So it's you've created your own career based on your personality type, and you've made that adapt to you instead of trying to force yourself into these other traditional boxes, which I think our listeners are really going to love to hear that, this can be done and you can do this. And that's really awesome. You had a story about ADHD. Do you want to share your story about the time you went and
so when I was running my first company, my web development company, there was this period where I was just absolutely convinced that I had ADHD. And, I'm not an expert on this condition by any means. So maybe my idea of what would send me to a doctor to find this out is not accurate. But, I'm sitting there at my computer with a to-do list I was a list maker at that time. I just had these lists of thousands of items. It was just absurd. I deal with a lot of that. I put a lot of my to-do list ideas, instead of just making an enormous list, I have lists of FYI, right? It's not a to-do list, it's just FYI. And I have another list of on deck, we're not even starting this yet, but here's an idea for some, that it's not even in the queue yet. I have an on deck list, I have an FYI list. So I shuffle these things over to if it's not a real to-do, it's just a thing I want to write down. They have different lists now. But anyway, so I had at that point not figured that out yet. And so I had these lists of literally, 2,000-3,000 things to do. And I would spend time shuffling them around and organizing them. And, but it was it was stupid. Yeah. And then I would be I can't afford someone to do all these things for me, as though I could hire someone who would do 2,990 of the things, it doesn't even make sense. And, later in life, for a long time, I was hampered by that idea. I was like, well, my business isn't successful enough to hire someone to do these things. So therefore, it's like a catch-22. I can't do the things to get the money because I don't have the money to get someone to do some of these things. Mm-hmm. And when I actually got around to when I was actually able to hire somebody, so in the around the time that I founded the Bullish conference, I had a virtual assistant who was working for me, 15, 20 hours a week maybe. Mm-hmm. And I would give her tasks to do, and they would take much longer than, not that there was any problem with her. She was very efficient, much more efficient than me. Yeah. So, but I would give her tasks and I'd get her invoice later. And I'm like, you spent 3 hours on that? That's a lot of my money I'm paying to get this thing done. It wasn't that important. And then I was like, oh, like it wasn't that important, like I just paid $60. I just paid $60 to get this task done, and it was not worth $60. So like, why was it on my list in the first place? So yeah, but I didn't know any of that back when I'm running my company and I have a 5,000 item to-do list and I can't focus on anything because what the hell would you focus on? And also nothing was working. So I should have just stopped and like done run a different kind of business, like actually talked to people and found out what they wanted, which was not what I was offering. Lots of problems I now know the solutions to, but this is why I know the solutions. So anyway, I was miserable. I was sure that I had ADHD and I had no health insurance. And so I didn't do anything about it. And finally, 15 freaking years later, it's now I have all the health insurance I need, I mean, you just, it's sort of like the people who are getting like, like when you get all these ads to open an account at a new bank and they're like, oh, $200 free. And then you look at the fine print and it's like, if you make a $10,000 deposit, the people getting the $200 deposit are not the people who need a $200 deposit.
Right.
The people who Anyway, so when I needed the health insurance, it was not there. And then when I feel fine and I'm like, 30 whatever, it's like, oh, health insurance, maybe I should check this out. So I get a referral to a doctor who diagnoses people with ADHD. And she tells me within 45 seconds that I don't have it. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it was 7 minutes, but it was like a very brief period of time. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, I really am confused about what happened there, but she was not a crackpot. She was a well-respected doctor. So I'm just going to leave it alone. I feel like knowing something like that about myself at this stage in life would not help me because my life is pretty much tailored to the way that I am. So yeah. But it's something that, now that like I'm more aware of this, I feel like if my kids had I had 2 daughters, who are currently 3 and 5. So if they had similar problems, I would take them to a doctor much sooner, obviously.
Yeah. And our community actually talks about that a lot, about the labeling part. Like when we do something, was that the ADHD or was that Sarah? And, if you have it or not, or if you have the official diagnosis. And so definitely.
I also think you could take anybody who is not, people who have no diagnosis, and you could put them in a situation that would cause them to have characteristics we associate with ADHD.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. Put people in a situation where they don't know what to do and they can't succeed. It's like you're going to see certain types of behaviors.
They even have a name for technology-induced ADHD.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, and you might come across it with your daughters because I think there's a lot of talk about it in the child psychology arena. But it's like there's an actual, it's not ADHD as we know it, but it's kind of like induced by all these electronic devices. And so you can certainly have that experience without the official traditional pathology. So yeah, cool.
Oh, and I was going to say, so one of the things about being a business owner that I think is really relevant to this kind of personality is that people tell you you're supposed to have a goal, right? And you're supposed to break down all the steps to that goal. And then you're supposed to move in a linear manner towards that goal. And you're going to hustle. That's what hustle means. Hustle is like move in a linear manner towards, really? So I'm not sure that I really have goals exactly. And that's a weird thing to say maybe for somebody in my position, but I like not having goals. I think that that's a powerful position. Like I don't need to have a goal. My business is running fairly well. I mean, things could always be better on a million fronts, but that's what I do all day. So I go to work on any given day. I actually love to have an empty calendar. Like that's what I want. I want nothing on there. And I want most of the work I do to be helping other people do their work. So right now I have 2 part-time people who work in the office, and I have 2 virtual assistants, and I have a marketing person. So I have 5 people that I'm delegating to. I don't have any full-time employees. That's a lot of responsibility. And also none of us work at 9 a.m. Literally no one in this company is in there in the office at 9 a.m. The UPS man's like, what? Is this a real company? Yes, it's a real company. And absolutely no one will be here before 11. So, I mean, the number one person who works in my warehouse, she's a model and she goes to castings. We're in New York. And so she just she'll log in from her house and say, oh, there are 47 packages to ship. That's actually not that many for her. So she'll say, oh, there are 47 packages to ship. I have a casting call at 9 a.m. So I'll get into the office by 1, 2 o'clock, whatever. And she'll ship the packages and be able to get them out by 5. And so during the holidays, I get extra help and whatever. But anyway, so she's very, very flexible as well. The whole thing's very flexible. flexible, which is a great thing with a business where you're not like running a juice bar where someone has to be standing there when the store opens. Like this is kind of work that needs to be done. It needs to be done every day by 5:00, but there's a lot of flexibility there. So sometimes, some of us, I or she will come in the night before, like catch up on a bunch of things. So there's not that much work during the day. So very flexible. But what I was saying about the types of work is that, if I'm kind of running things well, meaning that I am correctly delegating to other people, then, when I wake up in the morning, there's nothing on my calendar and I look at all the things that I could do and I kind of pick what I want to focus on. And that's okay. It's not always the case, but it's the case enough that I feel satisfied with that. I can look at my calendar for the week and be like, well, Thursday is going to suck, but these other days, I'm going to go to the office or maybe work from home, and I'm going to pick, like, am I going to focus on e-commerce? Am I going to focus on the conference? Am I going to write smart? Like, I get to pick those things. And that is really satisfying to me. I also have, just in terms of like why I don't tend to work well in normal jobs, which I have not had for a long time. I cannot handle, like, at all, being told where to sit. It offends me so deeply, like assigned seating. On an airplane, fine, I'll handle it. But like a comedy club, it's supposed to be fun. And they tell you where to sit, and it's too close to other people. And they tell you where to sit, and you cannot get to the bathroom without being made fun of. So I used to be. What? Have you been to a comedy club?
Yeah, they make you sit.
Yeah, they pack the people in really tight, and then if you like, usually because there's someone performing on stage and there's not really like there's not like an intermission. You're not at the opera, So if you want to get up to go to the bathroom or leave because you're offended, usually the person on stage will make fun of you. Yeah, sometimes it's offhanded and sometimes it's not. Anyway, so like the whole idea of like being told where to sit, I find difficult and offensive, and so like my workspace needs to be physically accommodating of my needs, which means I have a space heater. Some offices prohibit space heaters. I have a space heater and 42 plants in my office.
Wow.
Yeah.
42 plants.
I think it's 42. Yeah. And so, that's a nice thing for me. I also have like a humidifier, an enormous humidifier. So basically I am a plant, like sort of climactically. I am basically a palm tree. I would like a humidifier and a space heater at the same time, pointed at me at all times, and also a lot of sunlight. I am a palm tree. Anyway, so being able to accommodate that, is, I feel like that's not a very insightful thing to say. Like, I love having a nice office. Like, it's really great. Of course it is. That's not helpful to anyone. But I think the thing that is nice is when you create, the thing that might be a little more helpful to other people is like when you first start a business, it's really hard to delegate anything because every task is unique. And, you're trying to delegate things, but you just have to explain them so long that you might as well do them yourself. And it doesn't seem productive. So the idea with creating a business, as opposed to just kind of being self-employed, is to create processes that are the same each time. So if what you're providing is a service, you don't want to be reinventing the wheel all the time. Like, you don't want a business that's like, yeah, we do everything in our, like we make websites, but we also maintain websites, and we also do online advertising campaigns, and we also design logos, and like everything is a different price based on what we talk about. You're just setting yourself up for so much like meta work that you don't get paid for. So you want to have clearly defined options for what you sell and processes. So, some of this, you even as a solopreneur, like you can do yourself by having like Google canned responses. There's the canned responses extension for Gmail where you can write templated responses. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm looking for a logo, then you just have an auto reply that's like, cool, can you answer these 12 questions? Give people 12 questions. If they're not serious, they'll go away. Here's 12 questions. And then just like be upfront about the price, or the pricing structure. Say, like our logo design, it ranges from, $1,000 to $3,000, based on whatever. And, if this works for you, fill out this form with the 12 questions, something like that actually does get rid of people who aren't serious. And it takes you 1 second to, respond in that way. So that's one way you can systematize even by yourself. But if you have other people working with you, you need to get in a position where, what other people are doing for you, is consistent and replicatable. There's something called an SOP, or standard operating procedure, that could be a document, could be a video, but basically it's you writing up the steps for somebody else really clearly. And then, once you've written up the steps, you can hand over that task. So a good example of that is like customer service. If you have a business that has customer service, that might mean, 3 people a day on average email you with a problem with, say you have an online course. Let's use a new example. So you have an online course on succeeding with ADHD. 3 people a day are emailing you with problems. So you don't want to, it's like, say you would like to actually not do that yourself. So you want to have your virtual assistant answer those emails. Well, if you just say, hey, answer these emails, your virtual assistant is going to email you like all the time and be like, well, what should I do about this person? This person's problem is weird. What should I do about this person? So what you want to do is make standard operating procedures, making a very explicit list of rules. So like if the person can't log in, okay, here's how you fix that. If the person hates it and wants a refund, we just give them a refund. You got to like think of some rules so that when this happens, check this. If this is the case, do this, like a flow chart. If this is the case, do that. So whatever you're asking someone to do is replicatable. And even if you can't afford to hire somebody, doing that for yourself is very helpful.
Yes, I was just about to say, I just started writing some SOPs for a VA. And I've been able to streamline my own process because it's like, it goes back to that $60 thing. I'm going to pay someone $60 to do all this ridiculous stuff. And it's like,
it's not worth $60, right? Yeah. So you have to, like, what does not need done? Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So where can people find you to keep up with you? Where are you on the socials?
I'm on all the socials. So at Get Bullish, that's GetBullish, or getbullish.com, everywhere. Getbullish.com and at Get Bullish. The name Bullish, by the way, it started because around the time that I was founding Bullish, I was living near Wall Street, near the Wall Street Bull, that famous sculpture. And it was also around the time of the financial crisis in like 2008. Yeah, it was a little after that. And I was just laughing at the idea that this like snorting masculine bull with its big golden balls was like the symbol of our economy and the symbol of business success. I'm like, well, how's that working out for you? So, people who visit the sculpture, they always rub the balls. Like they literally, everyone's taking pictures at the back end, like the back of the bull. Like everyone's posing around this butt, this giant butt. They're rubbing the bull. They're rubbing the balls. Like the balls are like shiny. They're really shiny because they get rubbed most of any part of the bull. And people take pictures at the front, but the back is more popular. So I'm looking at this bull and I'm like, this is absurd. Like there's nothing about business success that involves like charging people and snorting at them. This is a silly symbol. And so the logo of Bullish, it's a bull with a unicorn horn. It's like a rainbow colored bull with a unicorn horn. It's whatever gender it wants to be. So it's a bullicorn. That's the deal. People should join us at this conference. So why don't you?
Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say you will be speaking at the conference, and that is very exciting, and I cannot wait for it. And maybe you would like to say something about that.
So yeah, my line of work is digital marketing. And so we've been talking a lot about just balancing all the things and how you can totally make something a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And so everything I've learned about managing my ADHD, I have also been able to apply it to digital marketing. And so this became a thing. And I kept getting clients that were just so overwhelmed with their digital marketing strategies and just so, I don't know what to do. Should I do this? Should I do that? Because there's so many platforms now. And I jokingly started referring to myself as like a therapist for digital marketing and helping people, these internal crises they were having. There were just so many parallels between managing my ADHD and managing digital marketing strategies that's how I came up with my topic, which is digital marketing, finding focus in a shiny object world, because there are just so many options out there, not just with digital marketing, but just life in general, that you can just be paralyzed by how much choice you have. So,
I did not know all of that story. That is fantastic. So the conference is April 9 to 10, 2020 in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, and you all should go if you get a chance. I'm letting my Texan out right now. Y'all come out now. I went to my first one last year in Palm Springs, and I did a travel episode last year, and that was the trip I was on. I was at BullCon in Palm Springs, and it is just unreal. It is so amazing. I've been to a lot of different conferences, a lot of marketing conferences, and this is just... it's been the best conference I've been to. And so it's exciting to be able to not only go again this year, but I'm actually speaking. It's like very awesome to be speaking at my favorite conference.
Well, I was so happy to get your proposal. So I'm so glad that we're doing this. So I will see you in person. And thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you, Jen. And for the audience, Get Bullish. That's how you find Jen. For me, my handle is ADHD Adulting on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, happy adulting. I don't know about you guys, but I love podcasts. And if you're listening right now, you probably do too. Have you tried Stitcher Premium yet? I love Stitcher Premium. Not only do you get ad-free programming and bonus content on some of your favorite podcasts, you'll get them before everyone else does. It's fantastic. I love it. If you would like to try it for 30 days for free, you can go to stitcher.com/premium and use the code adulting with ADHD. Until next time, happy adulting.